So I took a leaf out of Moss's book, and that finally became the reason that I thought maybe it was a reason to publish. So yeah, that's the story.
But in writing this, you must have learned, in order to tell us about vaudeville, you must have learned things about yourself.
I did. I learned a lot. I thought I knew a lot, and I do, but writing it, remembering it, going back to it, and oddly enough, having to speak about it now is a whole different perspective. It's one thing to write it privately, it's another thing to come out and talk about some of the more unusual bits of my life. And so I'm half shy, I'm half in a dreamlike state of wonderful success of the book, but it's a little mixture of both.
What did you find out about yourself that you didn't know?
That, to my surprise, I thought I had a very happy childhood. Truly, and to my surprise, I discovered that maybe I didn't. I kept saying to my daughter, who was the most enormous help on the book, I kept saying, gosh, I hope this isn't too depressing for you. You know, I seem to just keep writing and telling the truth. And the more I looked at it, the more I thought, wow, that was a bit depressing, you know. But it didn't, of course, I had nothing to compare it to or with, and so it didn't seem that way. And there were very joyous times. And the great thing about my life is that it's been so peopled with wonderful characters. I mean, all my relatives, my ancestors, my mum, my aunt, my uncles, they were all great characters, all. And my husband Blake always says that characters make your story, and I think he's right. You can have the finest, tiniest little tale, but if you've got great characters, look, Damon Runyon, for instance, is the best example. You know. But what I found out about myself, that it was a little harsher than I had imagined, that I discovered a little angrier at my mother than I had thought, because I adored her. She's passed now, but I really adored her. But writing about it, these things sort of bubble to the surface like bubbles on a pond, and I guess they just keep rising up, and you write about them, and then you read it, and you think, well, that does sound rather angry. But it was that strange, you know, those are the things I learned.
So what was harder, taking off your shirt in SOB or taking off the covers on this?
Well, actually, I had about 10 years for SOB to think about it. And Blake cleared the set, and it actually, SOB was, it was part of her character. It was really necessary in the plot of the film, so it wasn't so bad. I could probably share what was funny, though, is preparing the dress. I don't know who, I think most of you have seen a film called SOB. My character has to rip off the top of her dress and expose herself. So getting the dress ready for the ripping off was the funniest bit, because, you know, it was like, well, we push a little bit in here, we lift them up a little bit there, and my husband had to keep coming in and vetting it and saying, no, I don't like that, he would say. And then, you know, when finally they're ready to be exposed, do you rouge them up a little bit? There's quite a lot of thought goes into that. So anyway, I think this was harder.
You write about there not being a lot of grace in your upbringing. Your family were poor back generations. They were the other side of the green baize door and upstairs and downstairs. They were downstairs.
They were downstairs, yeah. My great-grandmother was what they call a tweenie, which is the child. She was only 11 at the time, and she was in service, and she was the child that had to get up at 4 in the morning and light the fires for the servants so that they could go to work for the people upstairs. And one of the things that amazed me is the quantum leap from my grandparents to my parents, and then again one more quantum leap from my parents to my life. And in 2 generations, it makes you unbelievably grateful, and you think, my God, I'm so lucky.
You were in vaudeville, as you say, at a time when it was in its last greatest moments. And the people who populated vaudeville behind the stage, behind the screen, were to my way of thinking, reading is every bit as interesting as the characters you played on stage.
That's right. Well, they were wonderful. Particularly, I mean, Vaudeville every day was, every week was different. And so you'd be on the bill with magicians and jugglers and animal acts and singers and soubrettes and ladies on the swing and you know, the great comedian and double acts of all kinds, piano acts and singing acts. It was amazing. I should tell the story, I think, Pat, that I told the other night when we were together. When my mother was rehearsing one day, on a Monday of every week that you play, you go to a new town and you put your band books, your orchestra books down in front of the microphone, and if they're not there, they're there, or there, or there, or there, and the maestro of the orchestra gets to your books as they've been placed. If you're lucky, you get them down early and you don't have to wait so long to rehearse. And my mother noticed a lady rehearsing, and excuse me if I stand up for a second, but she sort of did indicated a wonderful pirouette here and a pirouette there, and then she held her arms up like this, and then enormous soaring leaps. And my mother thought, my God, this lady must be an extraordinary dancer, because she's only indicating, but she was rather an old woman and not particularly pretty. So she decided to see what it was that night on stage. So she stood in the wings, and this lady came out in a hideously over-fussy evening gown, and she was followed by a troop of performing dogs who did leaps